Hello everyone, this is Ray Konopka from Raize Software, and in this session I'm going to be discussing how to effectively use our Raize Components 6 product. We'd like to think of Raize Components as not just a collection of VCL controls, but it's a user interface design system. With that, there's over 125 general purpose native VCL controls. Covers everything from panels and edits, lists, buttons, there's display capabilities, and so forth. It's quite an extensive library. In addition to the controls themselves, if you're familiar with the product at all, you've probably have heard that we have over 100 different custom component designers. This includes component editors and property editors and other tools to help provide quick access to customizing the components at the design surface. And really that is a core feature of our concern for the components themselves. So we don't just focus on the application interface, which is of course important, but equally important is the developer's interface. And this gives us some extensive power and flexibility that we pass on to the developers, that you guys can use our components very quickly and easily to get into the real work that you need to do, which is the business rules and the functionality parts of your user interface. And of course there's a great attention to detail in all of the properties and the names and the methods that we provide. It's a very consistent interface to work with. And so really, rather than spend time in the slides, let's see Raize Components 6 in action in RAD Studio XE3. As you can see, I've got RAD Studio XE3 installed. I've got a Delphi VCL Forms application, and of course I have Raize Components already loaded. It's got its 7 pages of components. I'm using the large icon size. I can fill them all up. Very visual icons, allows me to track and locate the desired component very easily. Traditionally, I would do demos with Raize Components where I show our toolbars and status bars and our group boxes and splitters and things, those big heavy hitter controls that you see all the time. However, I showed those in last year's CodeRage section, so I'm not going to repeat the same thing in there. If you are interested in kind of that high-level overview of some of that functionality, I certainly recommend going and downloading the replays from the vendor session from last year's CodeRage section. For today, though, I want to spend a little closer look at some individual controls, some underlying functionality, how we can write some extra code to add extra enhancements to our controls. And so one of the first things that I'd like to show is start out with something very simple, and that's a button. And we probably the most common control that we put down in our applications to invoke some user action. And you may not think that there's a whole lot that can be done with a button, but we do provide a lot of visual feedbacks. I'm not going to go into all of those right now, but of course you can pick up the themes, the VCL styles if they're being used. It also has the ability to customize the appearance, and you can have it look pretty much the way you want. However, one of the things that we often have to do is set up OK and cancel buttons. It's a very common technique, but there's a number of properties that are required in order to do that appropriately. You have to set the default, the caption changes, the modal result, and it's very easy to miss one of those. So one of the first things that we provide is a context menu pretty much on every control in the library to be able to go in and say OK button and make that change. We now have all of the properties have been set up as they're supposed to. We can then go and drop another control down and change that to the cancel, and we're good to go. We don't need to worry about making sure that we missed a property or we didn't set the cancel property to true on that, so the escape won't close the dialog. We're done. However, if we want to extend this even more, we can pull up one of the custom editors that are included in Raize Components and allow us to make some additional changes. Maybe we want to provide, say, maybe a customized button. We'll call it accept. We'll make it a large size, and we've updated the and we'll have it to be a default. We've updated the modal result. We can even see what it looks like if it's disabled or not. What's nice with the preview is I can make many property changes, and if I don't like them, I can cancel it out. I don't need to accept it, but in this case I will, and it's picked up all of the changes for me. So it's very straightforward, very nice, easy to use control. Descending from that is our BitButton control. has the same basic functionality, except it's designed to show an image. Now, traditionally, the image can be pulled in directly in a glyph property. So if we wanted to add the glyph, we can simply do that and push that into the display. However, we also fully support ImageList through all of the controls in the library. Any control that supports displaying an image can get it from an image list. And so if I go and add an image list to my form here, again, context menu on everything, and connect my button to that image list, I can now select an image, and every image I add into it's going to drop into my my image list. And so I can add a few things in here as needed. Add a little pencil. Each one I pick, I can close that, and I can double click this to see that those same images have actually been added into my image list. Let me go ahead and cancel those, and so now I've updated that. Continuing on with the button controls, another feature we've often had requests early on was the ability to display some additional choices from the menu. We don't have the room constraints in our user interface, but we want to provide some extra functionality. Well, the RZ menu button is designed for exactly that. And the way that works is we simply create a pop-up menu, and we'll go ahead and standard VCL menu. So I'm going to just add some standard options here. I know they're real exciting, but it gets me the point of what I want them to be. Let me go ahead and correct that real quick. Close this down. I'll connect my drop-down menu with that pop-up menu for this particular control. And now if I go ahead and run this, what I can see is that as I click the button, I get the context menu comes down, and I can make my selections, choose them, and have it do whatever I want. I can even have cascading menus and so forth. So a real nice functional piece to give me some extra UI capabilities there. However, one of the things that often comes up, especially with the adoption of the VCL styles, and let me illustrate something very quickly here, because this highlights another feature that we have. If we bring in a main menu, and I'm going to add a main menu, I'm going to add in some templates just to give us a feel for what we can have. So I have my edit and my file. I've got a main menu in my application. I've got a pop-up menu coming from my buttons. And if I go ahead and update my actions, my appearance of my control, I'm going to set it to be aqua graphite. I want to go with one of those dark, graphics program type of styles, and so I'm going to go ahead and pick that. Go ahead and run this application now, and what we're going to see is that, okay, all of my buttons picked up the VCL styles just like they're designed to. The main menu looks correct. However, when I drop down the menus, right now, even in XE3, the menus aren't converted into any matching style. It's really the traditional Windows style. The same is true for your drop-downs. Well, Raize Components provides a way to fix that. So what I'm going to do now is actually drop down, right-click again, real quick to bring these in. I'm going to bring a menu controller. Now, the menu controller, all we do is drop it on our form, and it's going to customize all of the menus that are displayed inside of my application. And by default, it will pick up the custom, the VCL styles that's used, or theming styles that's used. We can customize some coloring if we're not using those. And so now I'll give my application another run. And we can see it come up, and what's nice is that as I drop it down, I've got now a customized drop-down menu that actually picks up the styles. It picks up the gradient coloring from the VCL style. The same is true for the system menu. And so, again, we can get some extra functionality by using the Raize Components controls. The next control that I want to highlight for just a couple moments is our tray icon control. Before I do that, I'm going to change back my appearance. I'm going to remove that, get back to the Windows set, just because we don't need to highlight the styles at this point anymore. What I want to do is go down to my widgets page and pull in the tray icon, and I'll drop that on my form. And I've simply set that up. What's nice is that just by dropping it on the form, like the menu controller, it automatically provides functionality into the application. It will now sit in, it takes the program icon, puts it into the system tray. I can double click on that to restore it, and so forth. We can actually even extend it. I can associate a pop-up menu with that tray icon, and I just use whatever pop-up menu I want. I'm going to use the same one I'm using for the menu buttons, but you get the idea of where I'm going with this. Let me go ahead and run this application now, and what we'll see is that it comes up and I immediately have a new system notification icon coming in my display. If I right click this, there are the menu items that I had, and it is also colorized according to the Windows version of the menu controller. So this is what it looks like by default. It picks up the current Windows styles to display the nice gradient fills and the images next to them if we were to have those. What's nice is I have my fully functional application. If I go ahead and minimize it, it gets removed from the tray, but the icon is still there. I can double click and it comes back. Go ahead and exit the application and it's removed off of the system notification area. Moving forward, now that I see that the Raize display is in view here, I actually want to spend a couple moments talking about a few of the display function, display components inside of Raize Components. And specifically, there's three that I just want to highlight very quickly to let people know that they're available. The first is the line component, which it's a very simple control, but it's quite powerful in that it allows you to display segmented lines. You can customize the appearance, which way the line slopes. It goes from corner to corner. You can also have whether you have arrows at both ends or just at one end, and allows you to connect them together. You can have a caption that displays over the line, and so we can have this be parent relationship that gets updated. We've got the ability to, these are transparent, so hit areas and click events are only on the line itself, so we can create multiples of these and they'll be transparent if you wanted to connect things up. So just if you had that need for a line, it's a nice little control. The next one is the progress display, and this control is like it's a little window. It's just a graphic control, allows you to display information in a window that will roll off old data. So based on the number of lines that you have visible, there's an add step method that you can call, and each time you add a step to it, it will go ahead and add an item to it. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we've got, I'm going to create a count here. I'm going to increment my count just so we have something to display. Of course, I'm going to need to create that for me, so I'll call it fcount as an integer in here. And so we will go ahead and set the RZ progress display 1, and there's an add step, and we simply add the step, so count number and then int to string of fcount. And what's nice is the intent here is that as I click this, I'm going to add steps to it, and it will fill up and scroll old data out of view. So if I go ahead and run this now, what I'm going to find is I have count 1, 2, 3, and it will just keep rolling. It doesn't store the old data. It's really just a progress display. And so as I'm completing tests and steps inside the application, it's great for initialization or startup, and I can run and give some more than just a single line statement as to what's happening and have that fill into the display. So nice little usable tool there. And of course, because it descends from our the panel functionality and the bordering, it has all of the border capabilities that you're familiar with in Raize Components. So any type of customizations is all available there. The final control, just to highlight in case you're not familiar with it, is the LED display. Just provides just a different way of displaying displaying some information using a like a digital clock interface, and it's actually quite nice to display times, but you can also display text and letters and so forth. What is kind of neat is that it does support some animation built into it, so I can say welcome to CodeRage 7 and go ahead and set the scrolling property to true, and it will actually start to scroll, and I can just change the direction to be scroll left or right. I can also handle an event, so when the scroll finishes, I can have I can do something. So on the scroll complete, I know that it's reached the end of the scroll line. I can change the message and continue to display other types of text in there as necessary. So moving forward, I'm actually going to do a little reset here. I'm going to get rid of some of the controls and switch gears a little bit to one of our data aware controls, specifically our DB grid. And I'm going to drop one of those on the form. And I'm going to also drop in our buttons group our DB Navigator, which we provide. It gives us the ability to customize the icons. We have custom imaging in there and just some extra nice capabilities. Of course, I also need to be able to bring in some data, so I better get a data source, and I'll bring in a client data set as well. And what's nice, once I have those in place, I can of course select the data source to connect to my client data set. To do that for the controls, any of our data aware controls which have the little disk next to them, just right click and select up the data source. So I'm going to pull up my data source values for both of those. Now I just need to get some data, and so here let me go and load up some data into my display. And I've got my development, conferences, demo files, data set. Yeah, I've been doing this a bunch. So I've loaded in some data into my grid, and it gives me a little display. These are some baseball players of the Chicago Cubs. I'm a huge Chicago Cubs fan, and they did not do well this year, but that's okay. What's more important, though, is I want to highlight some of the nice little add-ons that the Raize Components DB grid gives. It's a direct descendant of the TDB grid, so all of that functionality comes into play. But one of the nice things that we've added is the ability to provide some extra UI capabilities. It has all the custom framing support that all of our other controls have, but also offers something like our alt row shading. So one simple property to give it a little bit more polished look. It's nice, easier to see the separation between the rows when we do something like that, which is very visual. Another area that we have inside of the grid is called Quick Compare, and it's a composite property that allows us to kind of add some on-the-fly presentation changes based on some criteria that we set. And so, for example, I can set up that let's highlight, we'll look at the at-bats column of our data, and we'll go ahead and check to see if there's if anybody's had over 525 at-bats. We'll make the operation greater than, activate it, and we can see that we've had 3 players with greater than 525 at bats. Go ahead and change the value, maybe make it 500, reset it, and then we get the value back in that highlights other fields. And we can do this for any other types of columns that we have, so how we want to interpret it. So if we wanted to do games, we can change it to the games column, and who had over 120 games, and we'll go ahead greater than equal to, and we get a different set of players. So again, nice little feature. Of course, you can customize the color for both the alt row shading as well as the quick compare. Nice visual little tool for us to highlight there. In the DB grid, we used some properties at the design level to change the appearance. Next, we're going to look at a control where we actually write some event handlers to provide even lower level display capability changes in the way a control looks. The control I'm going to pick for this example is actually our track bar. And if you see demos I've done in the past, you probably have seen the track bar. It's a very flexible control offering lots of different thumb styles and capabilities. Today I'm going to highlight two kind of more customized features, being able to draw a customized track and using owner draw tick marks. And we do that by handling a couple events and changing one property to instruct the control to actually do this custom display. So we're going to first change the tick style to be owner draw, and then we're going to go and change the on draw track event. And so inside of here we're going to do a couple things, and just because I know what kind of code I'm going to write, I'm going to need to add in the RZ common unit and the RZ graphics units, and these come with the library. They have tons of functions, helper functions and display functions, functions to get information about the operating system and so forth. So definitely take a look at what's available in there. But to start, I just need a rectangle, and I'm going to assign that to the value that I get back from the draw border routine, which is in RZ common. And that's going to take a canvas, and we can pull up the help, and it's going to also take the bounds, which is the bounds of our track, and then I'm going to make this a simple status frame style. There's several different frame styles that are included, supported by Raize Components. The reason I'm taking the return value and putting into R is because after I draw the border, based on the thickness of the frame and so forth, the interior is what I want to now work with, and that's what is held into R. And so the next step is I'm going to use the paint gradient call and set this, and to set the new bounds I want it to draw only inside the border I just drew, and change this to horizontal end. I'll change it to CL red and CL blue, so we'll have a little gradient going between the two. And let's give it a run. And so here we can see that sure enough our track now goes from the blue color to that, has a recessed look. Any changes, resizing, we'll just adjust that accordingly. So next, let's take a look at how we draw the owner draw tick marks, because we lost those. Well, I'm going to actually do something very similar. I'm going to set up another rectangle, and the reason for this is I need to determine where each label is going to be displayed, and I want the labels to be displayed next to their tick position. Well, what's the tick position? Well, the tick position comes into the event handler in the location point, and depending on whether we're a horizontal or a vertical track bar, the location X or the location Y value will be what's important. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to create a new rectangle, and we're going to start it with location X, and the location Y is what we need to adjust. And so location Y, and we're going to make that a little bit above the tick mark, and then we're going to add in another. We're going to say location.x plus the track bar, and track bar is a parameter to this. This tells us which track bar we're using, and so I'm going to bring in the track offset, which is how far away the track starts. So if we make it really wide, we can make sure we're centered in that display area. And then finally we're going to do location Y plus 8, and this basically gives us a rectangle 16 pixels high to cover what we need to show. I'm going to update the canvas of this track bar and change the font size to be 7, just so that we update that a little bit. And then I'm also going to change the brush style to BBS clear, just so that it's transparent, and if I had a transparency for this control, then the background of it would show through. And then the final step is to actually draw the label, and I'm going to do that with another helpful function inside of Raize Components, which is called draw string centered. There's a draw string as well, which you can take various flags, and here I'm just displaying the into string of the index, and we're going to put it the bounds. Well, that's what we just calculated. It's our value R. So let's go ahead and run this version. And here we can see that sure enough we've got the position right exactly where each tick mark is. And what's nice about the owner draw tick positions is that if I go into the control itself and either I change its size, dimensions, or add more properties to it, let's change the max value to 15, I go ahead and rerun the application, what I see is that the tick positions get adjusted and they're still exactly where they need to be. Very powerful way of customizing our display. The next control I'd like to highlight just for a few minutes is our RZ radio group, and it highlights a couple different things. One, it's very similar in functionality to the radio group that is built into the VCL, but it also descends from our group box, and so we get all the enhanced group box capabilities as well. But obviously we're designed to create a number of radio buttons inside of our radio group, and that it works very well to do that. To do that, we can just go ahead and click the edit the radio box. So rather than search for the items, we just go ahead and add that in. And let's say I wanted to change this to be say delivery options. So I can set up my caption, I can set up, you know, United States Postal Service. It's a little long. We'll do FedEx. I have a method to my madness here, DHL, for example. And if you're familiar with the radio group inside of the VCL, when you have varying length strings like this, the behavior is quite odd because it really just makes the component evenly spaced for each item. Well, with our version, we actually figure out the most appropriate size to use. So if I did want to make that 3 items long, it will figure that out for me. So it's a nice, easy way to customize that display. In addition, we have all the standard styles plus some additional ones like top line. We can go in and change that to banner, which is a nice one. Gets rid of the outer border, has a gradient fill. Of course, you can customize the coloring for that, picking up whether you're using the themes, the custom gradients, so forth. Underline is kind of nice. Of course, I can go back in and change this back down to 2. Let me go ahead and load up a whole set of delivery options, for example, and I can set up the default right within the control, click OK, and I've set up my UI to be the display, the functionality that I want it to be. The last section or topic that I want to cover for today's demonstration has to do with persistence. Imagine we have, well, we've already got a control setting on here. Let's go ahead and add, we can add a checkbox. In our interface, it doesn't really matter what specific version we have, but we've got an edit box, checkboxes, various controls in play, and we want to save those off. And there's a number of different persistent mechanisms inside of Raize Components, but the most powerful one is the property store. And this is the general purpose one that I'm going to be looking at right now. Very straightforward, non-visual control. We're going to establish a list of components and desired properties that we want to save off. Now, in order for this to work, we do need to add a storage mechanism, and that is by default that's our reg ini file control. And so I'm going to go ahead and connect the property store to it. And if I go ahead and double click on my property store, I get a collection editor, and the editor is really just going to allow me to specify which component I want. And so let's take the track bar, and the most obvious one would be the position. So we're going to save that off. Then the next control, let's do the edit one, and let's change the text. So we'll bring that. Let's take the next one, and it drops this down. We'll do the checkbox. And of course, if you drop it down, it tells you all the properties that are available for that particular control. And so we go ahead and store the checked value for that particular control as well. Now, we still need to instruct the property store to save off its settings and restore them. So to do that, we're going to do that in the onCreate and the onClose is typical places to do that. You could also do it in the destroy as well. But in the create, we're going to do the RZ property store 1, and this is going to be a load. So we're going to load them up. Next thing is on the close, we're going to do the opposite. So we need to store those off. So property store one dot save. So let's see what the impact of this is. Oh, just moved up to the interface unit because that's where the property store is loaded. It's a good error, if you will. So I've got my initial settings here. Let me go ahead and change this. I'll put it to 12. We'll check the checkbox and we'll say CodeRage 7. Go ahead and close this down. Now I'll rerun the application, and as we can see, all of our settings get persisted. So very easy persistent store to set up certain settings that you want. Very effective ways to do that, making simple two-method calls, and you can persist that out. Now, the reg INI file will persist that to an application INI file by default. It can also go to a section in the registry. There's a bunch of properties and values that you can customize where those data elements go. So that concludes my active demonstration of some kind of lower level behind the scenes controls that make up the library. Of course, we do have the toolbars and the image lists and the group bars and status bars and so forth, but wanted to showcase some newer things, some things that don't often get a lot of attention. Just to recap, Raize Components 6 comes with more than 125 general-purpose native VCL controls. In addition, you have more than 100 different component designers, a lot of which I showed today. Right-click on every component. Those common properties are at your fingertips. Make it much faster for developers to customize the appearance. You may have noticed I rarely go to the Object Inspector when I'm designing forms using Raize Components. You get the complete source code for all of the components, all the units, the packaging. We even provide the build script to rebuild all the components and packages if you need to make some of your own customizations with the source code. All documentation is integrated into the appropriate RAD Studio help. We support RAD Studio 2009 through XE3, both for 32-bit and 64-bit. Windows development with your VCL applications, including C++ Builder. Full support for the VCL styles. I touched on a little bit of those, but we even extend some of the support, giving you customized menus that aren't fully supported right now yet in the VCL. So it's a great way to enhance your user interfaces and add a lot of extra functionality to your programs using Raize Components. We have a special promotion going on during CodeRage. There you can get all the detailed information of full pricing and so forth from the URL that's mentioned there. That's the Raize.com DevTools CodeRage 7 webpage. But specifically with Raize Components, we're taking $100 off the list price, per developer list price of that. So the discounted price is $299, and of course that's in US dollars. We offer other discounts on our other products as well. I'm going to be doing a CodeSite Studio demonstration during CodeRage as well, so if you are going to tune into that, we would love to show you some of the functionality in there. And of course, if you do want to order to take advantage of these discounts, don't forget to use the CodeRage 7 promotion code on the ordering form. That will ensure that the correct pricing gets applied to your order, and will get you up to speed with the latest and greatest of our Raize Components product. Thank you so much for taking the time to take a closer look at some of the base controls and functionality in our library. If you have any questions right now, I will be switching over to the live Q&A portion. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Do the default properties for buttons use localized strings or own string constants? For instance, yes, no, okay, cancel.
Well, they do now. It was a great question. I actually went over and looked at the code to see what we were doing in there, and it's an editor that was built a very long time ago, and we was like, that's a great idea. So we've been changed it, and so now, yes, it is using the localized constants that come in Delphi to make that easier. So hats off to Oliver to point that out. That was great. So we're very pleased with that, and good to go.
Cool. Do you have components that would draw text along a circle segment given the grads of start of text and end of text, both centered or left or right placed?
The only component that we have that would somewhat apply to that is the RZ label, and inside of it you can essentially rotate it on an angle, or you can have it displayed along the kind of the implicit path of the ellipse that's defined by the bounding rectangle of the label control. And from there you can specify where you start that, basically at a rotation angle, and so you can wrap it around in a circle if that's what you want. It kind of all depends on what the developer needs. It doesn't have the advanced positioning that you would find with a graphics control, vector graphics package, where you would tie connect a text element to a path, for example, and have it follow through with that. There's specific, what he's looking for. If he wants to send an email to me, we'd be more than happy to work with him to see what is exactly he's looking for.
Okay, and he clarified that grads is degrees.
Oh, fine. Yes, gradients. Gotcha. So you can specify it. It all depends on what he's. How much control he wants over that, and if it's something that's multiple curves, or if it's a circle or elliptic space, then the RZ label may do what he needs.
Okay. Do you have any components for FireMonkey?
We have nothing published yet, but that is something that we are working with. I'll leave this at a point, because I'm sure this comes up. If not now, it'll come back as somebody watches this. Are we going to have a Raize Components for FireMonkey? And the short answer to that is probably not directly. Given the fact that Raize Components specifically targets the VCL, it pretty much will always be a native VCL product. The goals and gaps, if you will, that Raize Components fills inside the VCL, those same situations, the same gaps and goals are quite different than they are in FireMonkey. Now, with that said, we're definitely backing FireMonkey. We've been doing a lot of research in it. We've got some base controls that will be forming a new product for us that's specifically targeting what we feel developers can get the most out of an add-on product for FireMonkey. Now, many of those will be inspired by Raize Components, but we are not looking for a port type of solution, property per property type of equivalence, to where you would take a Raize Components form and magically load it up into FireMonkey. That's not our goal. We really want to treat it as a separate product, as because of the uniqueness of the underlying FireMonkey framework. That's what we're looking to target.
Can your property store component store properties of non-Raize components?
Absolutely. Any component, any property, we certainly do not want to make any restrictions on that. So whatever controls you're using, you can certainly use the RZ property store for that.
All right, here's a comment. Great comment. Great components, Ray. All I can say is wow.
Oh, awesome. We certainly appreciate it. We've been this is our flagship product. When people think Raize software, they think of Raize Components. It's basically the first product we created right after Delphi 1 was released. And so, some of the components inside of Raize Components have a history that's even older than the release date of Delphi. We started working on these way back in the early days. And we're still here. We're still providing, top-notch support. As I showed in the example there, the full support for the latest version of Delphi, the 64-bit support, the VCL Styles support, throughout, and we have no, we have no inclination to stop. As long as the VCL is there, Raize Components will be there, and then obviously, with our other products, DropMaster and Specs, and then of course CodeSite, we're going to keep pushing the envelope for what we feel is enhancing developers' experience in using the product. So not just giving a great end user's result, but also making the developer more productive when they use Raize software tools.
Cool. Somebody's saying that the What's New PDF shows XE2 has supported any issues with Raize Components 6 and XE3. Maybe it doesn't mention XE3 in that What's New.
The PDF was done for the initial release of XC or of Raize Components 6. There are no issues with XE3.
Okay.
I was using XE3 through the whole video, and so yep, no problems at all.
Very cool. No more questions. Anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think I've covered all those. Again, if you're new to the conference, I did see a comment about how this was someone's first time of CodeRage. That's great. Certainly glad that people are tuning in. To check out the previous year's showcases if they want a more high-level view of what Raize Components offers, some of the bigger named components, as I said at the beginning of the presentation. And then as I noted, the specials that we have running go till the end of the month. So we'll cover some of the replays once those get out there. And of course, if anyone has any questions, do not hesitate to send an email to us, and we'd be happy to answer them for them.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Ray.
You are welcome.
We'll see you soon again.
Sounds good.
All right.
Wrapping up another CodeRage.
Yeah, it's the last session. All right, take care.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.